Hello everyone, Matt here again for the second video I've been wanting to make. This one about a particular type of meditation that I found very helpful in my own pursuit of deepening my own lucid dreaming practice. But before we get there, because this approach deals with a lot of these kind of in-between states between being fully awake and fully asleep that aren't necessarily that widely known, I thought it'd be a good idea to start off just with some straight up definitions. So first up is this word hypnagogic, which could also be pronounced hypnagogia, depending on how you use it in a sentence. And I guess also when we're talking about a pronunciation, you may hear this word called by a bunch of people who forgot English class hypnagogic or hypnagogia, which is this guy. I did that for the first, like, I don't know, few years of finding this word before I finally heard somebody really pronounce it correctly and then remembered school and thought, oh my gosh, I've been wrong this whole time. Anyway, that stuff aside, what this state essentially is a state we pass through when we're going from awake to asleep, where mental thoughts and images get a lot more vivid. It can even be so much so to the point to where it really is its own type of dreaming. That it could be other senses involved. It's audible, physical sensations, smell, taste, all of that. The kind of the main difference with it between hypnagogic type dreams and regular REM style dreams is that hypnagogia is more like kind of in front of you, like you're watching it or you're witnessing it, where most REM style dreams are, subject, object, it's just like we are right now. You're separate from everything else, and etc. etc. So that's what this word means, hypnagogic and hypnagogia. Also, we have this other word, hypnopompic and hypnopompia, again, just depending on how you use it in a sentence. And what this state is really is pretty much the same thing as hypnagogia, but instead of going from awake to asleep, we pass through it when we go from asleep to awake. But same thing, increased thoughts and visuals and all of that. And guarantee you guys have all witnessed these states at least a few times. It's like if you're almost falling asleep and somebody wakes you up, you get startled out of some story you're lost in your head in, or if you're waking up really slowly and lounging around in bed, kind of between awake and asleep, you might notice these increased thoughts and visuals and all of that. So that's hypnopompia. But what some people might not realize is that we actually pass through these two states every time we're falling asleep and waking up. And with that being the case, it gives us tons of opportunities to try and access it, right? And stepping back a little bit, so for the first, say, a year and a half, 2 years, I was kind of trying to share this stuff and talk about it with people. I was calling this training hypnagogic, actually, at that time, hypnagogic meditation, incorrectly. But I always wanted to call it something else because, the approach I'm teaching, it's really a lot broader than that. It starts up from, as soon as a mind's starting to go quiet, all the way down through hypnagogia, even deeper than that until you're like, one breath or so away from deep dreamless sleep, through dreaming again, if you're lucid at least, that is, and then after that through hypnopompic and the surrounding states as well. So I always wanted to call it something else, you know what I mean? But I'm not that creative and couldn't think of anything else to call it. So, it's kind of whatever, just kind of looking around for things. And then last year, 2019, I ended up coming across this awesome book right here called Liminal Dreaming by Jennifer Dumper, who's totally amazing, awesome book. One of the few books I've seen do a deep dive into these kind of in-between liminal states. And when I saw her language she was using, liminal, to sum up all these states, I thought, holy smokes, that's perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I want to take it. But before doing that, I thought I really wanted to try and get her blessing first. So I ended up reaching out to her. It took a little bit, but finally got in touch with her. She was super awesome about it. Was like, yeah, of course you can use the stuff. So from now on, I'll be calling this meditation. And a little bit about me and kind of what got me even attempting to share this stuff and all that. So for me, kind of luckily, I guess, I stumbled across hypnagogia, lucid dreaming, and hypnopompia pretty much like one after another. So for me, my first real full-on lucid dreams where I was actually able to control myself in the situations I was finding myself in and all of that happened for me when I was 13. And my first ever full-on lucid dream where I had some control I ended up trying to exert too much control and waking up, or blacking the dream out, right? And so once I kind of lost the dream, instinctively I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, damn it, I had it, and I wanted to go back, so I just kept my eyes closed and tried to, you know, try to replay the dream, try to get back to it in my head, just kind of instinctively. I wasn't able to return to the dream at that point, but what I did notice for the first time was, I'm awake, but I can kind of see something up here. Like it's not pitch black. It's not a full on REM style dream, but there's something there to be seen. And so basically I just inadvertently stumbled into hypnopompia. Some time passed. I had to go to school not long after this anyway. Um, got more awake, got harder to remember the dream or even see it in that sense, and I was off to school. But what it did is it got me interested in what was that I just experienced. So I started trying to find it again. Right then, a couple days later, I happened to see a video of this awesome place, Lautenbrunnen in Switzerland. And I'm not entirely sure where my love of free falling came from, but really it must have been from this place because I have gone skydiving and bungee jumping and stuff since then, but obviously I was a lot older than 13 by that time. And since then I've been lucid dreaming for a good 20 plus years since then. And still yet the first thing I do every time when I get lucid, if I'm up someplace high, is I'm jumping off of that thing. You know what I mean? And I love flying and all that, but when I jump off of that building or jump off of that mountain, I am free falling, then maybe I'll fly back up or teleport back up to the top and then do it again. But I don't know what it is. That falling feeling is the shit for some reason. Either way, so I'm seeing these guys kind of running through here, jumping off this cliff, have this strong connection to it. And so the TV show ends. It was like a 10-minute thing on like Inside Edition or something. So I have a strong connection to it. I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I'm gonna lie down, try to visualize it and see what happens. So I keep replaying this same scene of me kind of running through the trees, leaping off the edge, running through the trees, leaping off the edge, and it's getting pretty clear, right? But what really shocked me is one of these times when I ran and jumped off the edge, I actually had the very beginning of that sinking, dropping stomach feeling. And it really blew my mind, actually. That was actually more intriguing to me, really, than my first lucid dream was, because, well, it didn't last long, and I kind of screwed it up anyway. But, so it really, really tripped me out. And it basically started, in that week or so, started my lifelong interest in, the mind, consciousness, and experience, and all of that. Kind of though, the problem was I had no friends of mine that were into this stuff. When I did have access to my dad's computer, I didn't even know what to look up anyway to even look up what any of this stuff was. So I was basically just winging it on my own, right? So fast forward a good 15 or so years, to 2013, and I find out about Tibetan dream yoga, the Western approaches to lucid dreaming, Stephen LaBerge's work and stuff like that, and decided to start taking my lucid dreaming practice more seriously. I guess I was pretty lucky too, because after I had my first lucid dream around that time, 13 years old, I pretty much from that point on had them at about, I don't know, I'd say at least once a month clip, from then on out, just ever since. But when all that was happening, I was always stuck in this fun and pleasure-seeking mode of it. I got it first when I was 13, or maybe just because of me, I'm not sure, but I pretty much immediately got blinded by that, right? So anyway, 2013 rolls around. I start to realize how much more this practice actually could be. So I trying to take my practice more seriously. So trying to have them more often. And what I found when I started to do that was being able to surf these liminal mind states. It's probably like the single most helpful thing that helped me develop my practice. That and maybe the wake back to bed technique. But anyway, was super helpful. And that's essentially what I'm here to kind of share with is how I used navigating, trying to control those liminal states to help deepen my own lucid dreaming practice. So here's the agenda, and this will probably be the last part before you wrap it up into the next video I'm gonna put up. But so on the agenda for this series, I'll be putting out first. I'll kind of pick up where I just left off. What some of these benefits are. We'll go into sleep because we have to know when these states are happening, so you can help you know how to access them. We'll talk about accessing it, and then we'll talk about control, and we'll spend a good amount of time on the control and like on accessing and control because when it comes to hypnagogic meditation or liminal and all this in between state stuff, you'll hear hypnagogic come up every once in a while, but it's pretty rare to hear people talk about ways to work with controlling it and how controlling it can, at least in my view, directly impact and help controlling your lucid dreams. Like whatever muscles you're using to control and whatever skills you're developing in, maintaining awareness through hypnagogia and planting seeds of expectation or seeding ideas or working with influence and things like that. To me, I found it to be, almost analogous to controlling at least a lot of similar aspects within the lucid dream. So anyway, that's what we'll be covering moving on out. Until the next video. Aloha.